Good morning, and welcome to this month's edition of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation's third Wednesday Parent Resource Chat. My name is Bettina Campbell, and I am the Social Service Coordinator and a Medicaid CHIP assister for Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, which is the parent corporation for Healthy Kids Mississippi. Joining us today is our metrics director and our technology director, Mr. Thomas Robertson, and also our program director should be joining us. And we want to recognize our executive director, Dr. Michael O'Miner, and our program director, Sister Lottie Miner. We have some great news coming out of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation today. We are actually making some changes to our programs to ensure that we are better providing information and resources that's designed to uplift and equip parents with practical tools and timely resources and a faith-rooted encouragement. So we encourage you to share our new Healthy Together Mississippi Facebook pages and our new website, www.healthytogetherms.org. And then we want you to stay tuned for the exciting new changes that will be happening over the course of the next few months. Again, so what we're going to talk about, is we are talking about healthy observances, and we're going to talk about those for the month of September. And so we'll start with the National Recovery Month. And the National Recovery Month is to raise awareness about mental health and addiction recovery. Then there's the National Sickle Cell Awareness Month, which helps to raise awareness and support for people who are living with sickle cell disease. The National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, which is to remind us of this ever-growing epidemic. And we want to be assured that working together, we can do something about changing the outcomes of this horrible disease for people who are living with it. Then there's our National Childhood Obesity Awareness Month, which is observed in September to educate children and their families on how to prevent obesity. Of course, there's National Sickle Cell Month, and this was designated by Congress to help focus attention on the need to research and treatment for sickle cell. And finally, tomorrow, September the 18th, is HIV/AIDS and Aging Awareness Day. And it's to encourage our older adults to get tested and to help prevent HIV and to promote treatment. So again, we want to be talking about that today. And so we have with us Dr. Ty Uran Link. I think I'm pronounced that wrong, but we'll have her correct me when she gets on here. But Ty is a wonderful lady. She's from Nashville Cares, and she's going to provide the vital information about HIV and aging today. Welcome, Dr. Link.
Thank you.
But before we get started on our presentation, I again encourage you to please share this webinar on your social media platform. Then I want you to get your pencil and your paper and make sure that you write down all of the questions or concerns that you have as we go through with this conversation that I'm going to be having with Dr. Link. And we will make sure that we answer those questions at the end of the session. Before I go further, I want to say also that we have with us Mr. Denford Galloway, who is the Shelby County Health Department Planning Counselor Manager for the Ryan White program. And if she has not joined us, we should have Mrs. Paulina Edwards-Childs, who is the Healthy Aging Director for the Mississippi Department of Health, to join us today. So again, welcome, Dr. Link. And so I'm going to share just a little bit about Dr. Link and her wonderful accomplishments. She has an ED in Organization Development and a Master's of Science in Community Counseling. And she also has an MBA. This is a very educated woman, and we're so proud to have her with us today and proud of all of her accomplishments. And on top of all of that, yeah, she's a minister. And she is with the First Baptist Church in Gallatin, Tennessee. Gallatin, Tennessee. And we are so happy. She's employed at Nashville Cares as a program director of Healthy University, a program for individuals living with HIV that focuses on education, on advocacy, and social networks in an atmosphere of empowerment. Keep that in mind, in an atmosphere of empowerment. Ty is also she also serves on the scientific review committee for the Vanderbilt Institute for Clinical and Translational Research and on the Epidemic Equity and Leadership Work Group, which is the response for the national strategies for people living with HIV and AIDS. And Dr. Ling also serves as a chaplain for the Summer County YMCA. So again, we want to welcome you. And if I left out any vital information that you feel that you want to share, I mean, because you're just doing so much, I know I missed something. We want to make sure that you to have the opportunity to share that also with us.
Well, thank you, and I'm so happy to be here today. I think I would add that I am in that population that we're talking about today, HIV and aging. I've been living with HIV for at least 23 years. And so I'm going to talk to you today really about HIV and aging and why over half the population of people living with HIV in the United States, which is 1.2 million, over 50% are over 55, or over 42%, I'm sorry, are over the age of 55. So we really want to talk about that and why that is happening. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I am also, but I just want to comment on that. That we have so many people now living with HIV. It's just awesome because when I first came into the field over 30 years ago, that definitely was not the case. So to have you talk to us a little bit today as we go through about some of the advancements that they have made and how important it is to just get tested. So,
Yeah.
so my first question for you is HIV and AIDS the same thing?
No, it's not. HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, is the virus that may cause AIDS, which is the last stage of the of HIV. It's the final stage if left untreated. So there'll be some people that will never progress to AIDS because they're taking their medication every day, they're taking it as prescribed, they're living healthy. They may never get in their entire lifetime progress to an AIDS diagnosis. The thing about it, if you do progress to an AIDS diagnosis, which is only diagnosed by a doctor, by a medical doctor. So when you go in and get a test, usually the test is for HIV, not AIDS. HIV is the virus that can or may cause AIDS. And so once a person maybe they're diagnosed with AIDS, they can revert. They can build up their immune system, their viral load is decreased. They can get to the point where they're not at that point of having AIDS, but the doctor will always keep that. So it's like if you break your arm and you go to the doctor 4 or 5 years later, they'll say, "Have you ever had a broken bone?" Yeah, because that arm, although it's strong, it's not as strong as it first was when, before the break. And so it's the same way with a diagnosis of AIDS. AIDS is the acronym that holds the stigma, unfortunately, not HIV. And so, people will say, do you have AIDS? And they think that you could catch it in the air. You think you could catch it by standing next to somebody, by drinking after somebody. It is not resident in saliva, sweat, feces, urine. There's other nasty things in those substances, but it's not HIV. HIV is very particular of how it's contracted.
So thank you so very much. So just to shorten that, what I'm hearing you say is HIV is the virus, AIDS is just a diagnosis.
Right. It's the latent stage of the virus if left untreated. And so we'll get in talking to more about that.
All righty. So for older adults, what are the health risks that are associated with HIV?
Okay, some of the health risks associated with HIV. HIV is a chronic inflammation disease, which means if you cut your finger, normally your body moves, turns a switch on and moves to correct that. You'll see, scab come over it, that area will be healed, and then that switch is turned off. With HIV, that switch is always on. So it produces chronic inflammation, which is also heart disease, which can lead to bone disease, which can lead to diabetes, which can lead to liver disease. So those are some of the diseases that you'll see along that align with people living with HIV, especially if left untreated. And I would say, even if you are treating and taking medicine every day, you have more of a potential to contract some of those illnesses earlier in life. So everything goes along with that, a mind and body connection. You have to, eat right. You have to have a healthy lifestyle. You have to really be intentional about the way you're going to live your life from the date of diagnosis.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So what are some of the possible signs for HIV for older people?
I would say a flu-like illness, which everything is like that, right? COVID, you know, COVID, we know now, a cold, the flu, all those things may indicate that there's something going on. And if I could give my personal story with me, I had a mammogram. So I have sinus really bad. You may hear it today, I have allergies. Um, so I didn't see a difference. And when I went to have a mammogram, I had swollen lymph nodes. So at that time, I asked my doctor, what's going on. And he said, well, you have some type of infection in your blood. So the second year I went back, had another mammogram, swollen lymph nodes. I said, well, that's still here. He goes, well, it might be your sinus. And so I had Googled it and I said, what about HIV? My provider told me, you don't have to worry about that. You're not in that population. You never have to worry about HIV. You're a good girl. So
Mm.
pastor's kid and all that, I didn't worry about it. 2 years later, I donated blood. And that's how I found out that I have HIV. And even at that time, when they called me into the office to let me know, I didn't believe them. I said, no, I'm not in that class. I'm not in that population. And they probably said, what is wrong with this woman? you know? But my brother, who was a physician, and he was a physician at Vanderbilt at the time, and I called him. And I said, look, these people are saying that I might have HIV. And I expected him to say, because I'm the youngest, he's the oldest, girl, go home. Don't even worry about that. But he didn't say that. He took the phone, he talked to the nurses, and he said the most important words. He said, it's not fatal, it's chronic. You can live with this. And so for me, those were encouraging words because I had teenagers at the time. And yeah, so I went home and I decided to live with this, and not only live with this, but let other people know how to live healthy with this in a long life.
So it's not a pop. You don't have to be in a population to get it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anybody having risk, vaginal fluid, semen, blood to blood contact, breast milk, any one of those categories is a possibility. So I think everyone should be tested at least once in their lifetime. The test now is a 5 minute, 10 minute test depending on what kind of test you have. You go in, you have the test, and then you know your status,
So everybody, regardless of
regardless of
of
age.
race, age, social
Yeah,
economic status, any of those things, everybody
exactly.
who is engaging in sexual activity or sharing needles or share of some kind
Right.
need to go and get tested.
And that's any form of sex, any form of
Any,
sex,
say that
and
one more time.
any form of sex and any age,
Right.
and I think about my granddaughter who's 11, and my daughter called me and said, I think she's been looking at something she's not supposed to. Something is going on. And so me and my granddaughter have this sort of, like to think I'm a cool grandmom relationship. And she called me and I said, well, what's going on? And she said, well, there was a boy at school at recess. He said that he watched his father and his brother talk to the TV, talk to the Alexa, and say sex videos. Y'all should go home and try it. And so she did. And she saw sex videos. And that's what my daughter was talking about. And so we had to have a conversation about that, as well as tell the principal at the school, everybody at recess, their parents need to know that if they have an Alexa or some type of smart TV in the home, this is the way kids can find it. So it's real easy for kids to find. we also talked about with her, she said, well, Gigi, there's certain girls at school that are having oral sex, and we talked about that for her age. We talked about, disease. We talked about everything. And so that's sixth grade. Sixth grade, which is one of the biggest populations for kids testing the waters and seeing what's out there. And this stuff is on TV, is on Disney, is on different things. Not talking about the TV, but I'm saying it's available, and we need to have answers for our children, so they know what to look for. We can tell them not to have sex, but what does that mean? What does that mean to a child? And they can think of sex in one way, and you can think of sex in another way. So I think it's really, really important, to talk to our children and our adults at any age, almost.
I agree with you 100%. And I heard you say the definitions may be different. So when you use the word, then ask them to define it for you. When I say sex, what does that mean to you? And so that you're making sure that you are talking about the same thing, because it
Right.
is important. And I know that a lot of people don't think that we should be talking to our children about sex and sexuality. However, so much is happening now to our children, and they are being exposed to it, and even in the home.
I
And
can
so
tell you.
and nobody is having a conversation with them about it. And so they are putting themselves at risk, not only for HIV, but for all of the other sexually transmitted infections. And when we're looking at it, it's not just talking about sex, it's talking about reproductive health,
Exactly.
which is critical. It's
Exactly.
critical.
And if we're not talking to them, who's talking to them? I use the word
Exactly.
oral sex. She said, there's some girls giving head. So I said, what does that mean? And she understood what that mean in her terms, but she didn't use the word sex. So even then, we were talking about two different things until we actually communicated about it. And I'm
Uh,
glad we have that relationship, because if you're not talking to your children, who's talking to your children?
so
Who's talking
sex
to you?
language isn't so common.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so thank you so much. That was really, I'm glad we stopped there to have that conversation. So, when we're talking about HIV in older people, does it differ from women and men? The
Yes,
symptoms,
it
are they
does. If you
different?
could put up that slide that I had, and I can talk briefly about it, it does differ from women or men. But the highest rate among females in the United States are women of color. We are almost 13 times higher than other races. I'm saying women of color, so Black women, Latino women, we are the highest. Black women are at the highest point, and Black young men. When we talk about aging, as I stated, 42% of people living in the US with HIV, that's 1.2 million, are over 55. So the first question is, why is that? We're highest among the late stage of HIV diagnosis, because doctors, as well as the community, sometimes we don't believe that older people should be tested for HIV. They should be. To me, it should be a regular test along with your other annual tests. And so many doctors, even today, my diagnosis was, decades ago, but even today, many doctors are like, you should, why are you worrying about this? And so in my program, I talk to many women that are, diagnosed early, diagnosed, or I should say the first time that they're diagnosed, I'm talking to them, and they're saying the same things. That they asked for an HIV test, the doctor said, why do you need that? You're a grandmother. But that doesn't mean that grandmother is not having sex. So everyone should be tested, but I think that's why the rates are so high. Some of the unique challenges is though that it leads to loneliness, it leads to social isolation and stigma, because a lot of people are ashamed. I had someone come in that was 67. She was diagnosed, and she was so shameful that I'm a grandmother. How can I tell this to my family? How can I tell this to my children? So nobody knows. And oftentimes in our program, I'm the only one that know that that they have this diagnosis. So when they go through sickness or illness, or when I'm taking them food, I have to say I'm from XYZ agency, or I'm from, the government, or I'm from the pantry. I can't say I'm from Nashville Cares, because there's too much stigma to that. Even in funerals. I spoke at a funeral recently for a client of mine, and his family said, well, can you just say that he was a drug addict and not HIV? Because we don't want anyone to know. And that was even in his death. So the word holds, or the thought holds so much stigma that people don't want to be associated with it, so they don't want to be tested. And so oftentimes you don't find out till the last stage or the late stage of the diagnosis, which is when it has progressed to AIDS. And that's when all the opportunistic illnesses can come in. So that's a lot of the problem right there.
Whoa, so much. Even, 30 years ago, we didn't know a lot about, I mean, we knew some, but we didn't know a lot about HIV. And so you could understand maybe some of the ignorance and some of the stigma that was attached. But with all of the education that we have, we would hope that things would change. But it seems like the more they change, the more they stay the same, you know.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking that people who need help are made to feel ashamed
Mm-hmm.
and fearful because they need help. And they're not
Right.
doing anything that anybody else hasn't done.
Right.
That's the thing
Right.
about it, you know.
And
So
if you look at that map, the bottom portion, which is the southern region, that's where the illness is affected the most. It's an epidemic in the South. So, I'm going to meetings every week of new diagnosis of people that have been diagnosed, young, older. I mean, it ranges from, I would say, 18 and even younger than 18, to the 70s even, that are diagnosed with HIV because they didn't think it would happen to them. The good thing about, if there's any good thing, that there are a lot of medications today. Um, when I started, when I got diagnosed, I wasn't on medication right away. They were coming out with the 1 day regimen, and I waited a couple years till it came out, and that's the first medication that I took, and I'm on my third regimen now, which is still one pill a day. So there are over 35 different medications now. There's an injectable that a person could take, every other month. So there are many improvements, but um, there's still negatives that go along with it. For instance, a person with HIV, even taking their medication, are 40% higher to have a blood clot. So even unprovoked blood clot, not because of an operation or illness, it's just there. They're higher to take kidney disease. The medicine is good, but it's strong. So you have kidney issues, you have liver issues. And so that's the reason that a person living with HIV also has to live a healthy lifestyle, because that will help them to live longer, and to live longer thriving, and not, live longer sick, to live longer with a purpose. Yes.
so as with anyone else who's ill and taking medications,
Right.
the medications help to improve the quality.
Exactly.
But there are side effects, and so the whole
Yeah.
thing is to to not get HIV and not
Exactly.
contract HIV in the first place. So
Exactly.
so talk to me. How often should a person get tested? When should they talk to their doctor about HIV
I would
and
say they
testing?
should be tested every year. And if they're involved in any situations where they're, having not protecting themselves with safer sex practices, then they should be tested more often. I would say every 3 months, every 6 months, depending on what they're doing in their lifestyle, but at least once a year.
And
At
keeping
least once a
Go
year.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say at least once a year.
So and so they
And I,
should and in realizing that when they are tested, the testing is only testing back behavior. It's not testing any current behavior or any behaviors that you
right.
engage in the
So
future.
any
So that's
behavior
why it's
that,
important to get tested
right.
if you can, and whatever behaviors you are engaging in. And if it's ongoing, then you should make sure you're testing frequently so
Yes,
that but you shouldn't use that as a prevention strategy.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And so are there medications that can reduce a person's risk for contracting HIV?
Yes, and that would be PrEP. So PrEP is for someone if they're HIV negative and they're participating either in, I want to say, a risky situation. I'm saying risky by you're having several partners, you're having partners that you don't know, you're not practicing safer sex practices, or you're having sex with someone who may be HIV positive, even if you still should take PrEP. Now, the good thing about if someone is HIV positive and they're taking their medication every day, they're undetectable. Undetectable now equals untransmittable, meaning a person that is on their medication and undetectable, meaning that there's no HIV in their sample of blood, they cannot pass HIV. They're untransmittable, and that has been proven scientifically. So that's not just someone saying that. It was proved by a partner study over several years, and so that is a plus also.
Let me ask you a question so that we're making this clear for everyone. Untransmittable does not equal not having HIV. It just simply
Exactly.
means that there's not enough in your bloodstream to be detected.
Exactly. And so that's
Okay.
the reason why someone that's living with HIV should take their medication every day.
So don't stop taking it
Right.
just because they say you can't transmit it because you're still
Right.
when you
Because if
stop
you
taking
stop,
it, then those numbers go back up again, and
right,
then you can transmit it. So
and you can
okay,
set up a
wonderful.
resistance. Yeah.
Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you, and that's very critical because a lot of people are thinking that, oh, I can't transmit it, so that must mean I haven't got it, so I'm okay now, and so
Right.
they stop taking their medication, and then
And
they putting themselves and everybody else at risk. So
and
wanted to
understanding that
make
there
sure
are
that we
other
clear that up.
STIs. There's I know in Tennessee where I'm located, Tennessee is number 8 for gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis. So there's other things, even if you can transmit HIV, you could transmit other things. So
That
there's
that
still
can be
other things.
just as It
Yes.
can have just as a negative effect because four of those other sexually transmitted diseases, well, three of them, there are no cure for them
Right.
either. So we want to make
Exactly.
sure that you are protecting yourself. So
Right.
so awesome. Thank you so much. But well, now we're talking about taking all of these different medications. I wanted to know uh, how does that interact with other medications that seniors may be taking?
I would say if they're taking a HIV medication regimen, then that would be number one. That would be like the king of the medicine, and every other medication that they're taking should align with that. Their provider will know if there's a conflict, if one medicine is not compatible with another, and so that's the reason that another reason to stay in tune with your doctor because your doctor will know that. So, for instance, I used to take a leave for pain. I can't take a leave because now a leave will affect for me, and that's for me. That's personal, but it would affect my kidneys, which also I have to watch out for. And I don't have kidney disease, but that can push me to a certain point, just how my body reacts to it. So I think a person that is living with HIV, they have to pay really attention with their doctor. That's a good relationship to have. It's like your best friend. That any medication you have, any over-the-counter medication. So St. John's Wort is a no-no because how it will affect the medication, HIV medication that you're taking. Ginseng in some forms is a no-no. So you really have to have a comprehensive list of everything you're taking, not just subscribed, but over the counter. Herbal medicine, which I used to take a lot of, and I had to pull back because it had some negative effects with my HIV medication.
So it's, as you say, it's quite important that once you find out you are HIV positive, that you get in care and that
Right,
you stay in tune with your doctor. And before you put anything in your mouth, I don't care as you said, if it's a herb, if it's a vitamin, before you put it in your mouth, check with
right,
your doctor to make sure that there's not going to be any negative effects. That
exactly,
are interactions between medicines that would cause you to have something else. So
exactly.
and hey, being in that senior age group, I know we have enough aches and pains and everything else that we
That's
don't want to
right.
add to it if we don't have to. And
That's
so
right.
we strongly are encouraging you to make, first of all, to make sure that you get tested, that you know your status. And then once you know your status, that you get into treatment and that you
Right.
stay into treatment.
And that you really don't think that you shouldn't get tested because of any position you're in. I was married at the time. Unfortunately, my the father of my children is no longer here. He decided not to take the medication for whatever reason, so he's deceased. But a lot of people say, well, you were married. That doesn't matter. I would say everyone should be tested. Everyone should be tested. I was asymptomatic for a number of years. So that means I didn't have any symptoms that I would think that I had HIV. There were no symptoms coming up. The first symptom that came up that I saw was the swollen lymph nodes. And so then I moved on from there. But as I stated, it could be a flu-like illness. And so you could think, oh, I might have COVID, I might have something else. You might never think of HIV because you're in a committed relationship. And it doesn't mean that that person transmitted it to you either, depending on, how long you've been together. You may have been living with this. So that's why it's so important to get an HIV test.
And I'm so glad you brought that point up. I want to say this before I bring Mr. Galloway in and see if he has anything that he would like to say on this subject. But because you don't know if you're having multiple partners, and for a lot of women, we are in what we call serial monogamy.
Hmm.
That means I might be going with Joe this week, and and I go with Joe for 3 months. I break up with Joe. I don't get tested, but I'm having unprotected sex with Joe. 2 months later, I start going with Al. Don't get tested. Go with Al for 6 months. Break up with Al. Go with someone else, but I'm never being tested. I could have been positive even before I started sleeping with Joe and didn't know
Right.
it. And
Right.
so
Exactly.
it's important that if you are engaging in unprotected sex, or if you're sharing needles of any kind with anybody, that you go get tested. It's
And that
about behaviors. It's not about, again, social
exactly,
class, race, ethnicity,
exactly.
any of those things, but it's about behaviors that you
And that
engage
and
in
that's
that
for I
put you
want to
at
say,
risk.
and I want not to. I'm sorry to just and that's any form of needles. I have a friend of mine that she became infected of her boyfriend who was a muscle builder and he was sharing steroid needles.
Yep. Any
So
needles.
that's a teen, and at the time, she was a teenager. He was a teenager at school sharing, football player, bodybuilder sharing steroids, and he got infected and passed it to her. So that's why I said people think of needles as a drug addict. It's a lot of different forms of things that people can take.
And
Botox,
we even
parties.
have people who
Yeah.
are diabetics sharing
Yep.
needles, or someone in their family is sneaking and sharing their needles and putting them back, and they don't even know it. So it's needles of any kind.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Galloway.
Thank you. Good morning to both of
Good
y'all.
morning.
Thank y'all for having me.
Good morning.
I,
I
I
would,
I would just like for you to comment on any other things that we've been talking about thus far. Anything that you might have to share that we missed, or you might want to share a little bit of your story, whatever you want to do.
well, first and foremost, again, I'm Denver Galloway. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm 64 years old, about to be 65, and I've been living with HIV for 22 years. Okay. You all expounded on something that I would want to bring up, and that was married couples and being tested. I've done numerous community outreach and wellness fair, and there's been so many people say, "Hey, we married, we don't need that." Again, you mentioned HIV lay dormant for a while, so it could have happened before, but
Right.
then again, it could have happened while they was married. Someone could have uh, stepped out or what have you, but it is so much embarrassment and pressure for one or the other spouse to even think about taking the HIV test.
Yeah.
And they need to take that pressure off each other and be comfortable. Say, hey, well, let's
Yes.
go get one. It's best that we know than not know. Know now, live longer. It's a slogan that we use all the time. So please, married couple, don't be ashamed, don't be embarrassed, and don't put too much pressure on your spouse to feel ashamed or scared to get a test. Um, the other thing I would like to either mention is that uh, aging with HIV, we in that era. They didn't expect us to live this long, but
That's
we
right.
here. We're still here. So the next best thing is figure out what's the best way to keep living, to keep moving on. And I heard you all spoke earlier about uh, your health, taking care of your health, eating right. That's probably one of the biggest things to continue to live on. Is make sure you eat right and do the things it takes. Maybe exercise, throw some exercise in there. But that is something we got to do. And I just personally want to know what can we expect, Doctor, uh, uh, um, to be able to continue to live, or should we expect some negative things happening to our body, or as we continue to age with HIV? I just left the USCAJ conference a couple of weeks ago where
Me
the theme
too.
was aging with HIV. Okay, well, we probably ran across each other and didn't see each other, but yes, that is something that we got to, that's a question in my mind. Uh,
I would say you hit it directly. Eating right. I had to. Um, I'm 65, and so when I turned 64, I was pre-diabetic. My liver, fatty liver, cholesterol, a bunch of stuff was happening. Um, and so I had to change the way I eat. I've been eating, you know, all the soul food and other stuff I want. I had to swap some stuff out. For myself, I just changed my eating plan for myself. And I don't think everybody has to do this, but for me, I wasn't a big, meat eater anyway, so I stopped meat. But I do eat fish. I do eat, seafood and stuff. But I had to switch some of that up. I had to swap out some things that I ate all the time, and maybe I could have once a month. But I was able to reverse all of those things. So I'm no longer pre-diabetic, cholesterol is good, but I had to change the way I eat and I started exercising. So I've lost, at this point, I've lost like 50 pounds and I feel better. And that's just by, and I'm not, in the gym all hours of the day. I'm talking about walking, walking. I'm talking about, doing some, I don't know if you saw those videos, chair yoga, stretching, doing
mhm.
things that are practical will extend your life.
Okay,
You
yeah, and
know,
I've done the same. I've changed my diet
yeah,
to vegan diet, and that's something that has made me feel better. I believe I've still worked probably 6 days a week at this age, so I think
yeah.
that's very important. And for anybody, that's very important as to their diet and what they eat. So, but yeah, so yes, this aging with HIV thing is a great thing, and I'm glad. I know they wasn't expecting, and is there different treatment that needs to happen, being that we are aging with HIV? Is there something different besides eating right and exercising? Is there any other medication or thought process? And let me say this, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you. Especially for people aging with HIV, I just heard this phrase a few months ago called sitting disease. That may not be the real professional proper name for it, but basically it's people living with HIV or anyone that has the illness just have isolated themselves at home and don't be involved with people and or what have you. So we are actually trying to plan something for that. So I'm gonna let you expound on that.
Yeah, you hit
Just,
it right
just,
on the
just
head
a moment,
again.
just a moment, please, Dr. Lynn. Would you say the name of, you just heard the term what again?
Well, someone called it sitting disease, but I think that's
Sitting, okay.
another professional term for that. And I'm gonna let the doctor talk about that.
Yeah, and I
Sitting
haven't heard the
disease.
term for that, but I agree. You hit it right on the head. The other thing is the mind and body connection. That you cannot allow yourself to isolate yourself so you have no kind of social contact, that you slip into depression, because our mind, and our inner critic, which I call it, will criticize you, and you'll talk more about yourself than other people even will when you're isolated by yourself. So you definitely need a community of support to come around you and lift you up and to talk, whether it's about, we have a lot of groups where I work. None of our groups are we ever talking about on the whole HIV. We're talking about life challenges. We're talking about grandmothers now taking care of their grandchildren. We talk about, housing. We talk about, um, dealing with stress, dealing with anger, dealing with. So we talk about a lot of stuff, and that your mental mind, stress can really kill you. It can kill you. I know
Right.
you say that, but it can mess with your heart. It can mess with your blood pressure. It could let go stuff in your body that will cause the HIV disease to get worse. I remember I was working at a place that was very um, toxic, and my CD4 cells, um, they went down. They went down, which means my body was reacting to what my mind was feeling.
Hmm.
I moved from that atmosphere, and all of a sudden my numbers went up.
So
Okay.
when you say CD4, would you explain to our listening
The CD4
population?
are your cells that they kind of protect you from illness. They're like your little army, your little soldiers. But different things can cause them to go up or down. So, for instance, if I have a sinus infection, my numbers will decrease. But once I take the medication, the CD4s will increase. So you want your CD4 high, you want your viral load low. Your viral load is actual how many cells, actual HIV cells that you have in a sample of blood, which is 1/5 of a teaspoon. So you want that low or undetectable, but you want your CD4s high. Because when they get at a certain point, if they get 200 or below, you'll be diagnosed with HIV with AIDS. I'm sorry, with AIDS. And so you want to keep them high. But your mind and body connection is so strong that sometimes your cells your those cells will go low because that connection is so strong. It'll cause your body to react what your mind is going through, whether it's depression, anxiety, those things will kill you. And so you have to be around someone that supports you. You have to, whether it's listening to music, talking to people, self-talk. I promote all that. I promote therapy, getting in touch so make sure your mind is okay. Getting a positive self-talk, whether it's going
I
to
agree.
whether
Yes.
it's being around friends, being away from negativity. If someone is negative, walk away. Find somebody who's positive. Find somebody who will lift you up. You
And
know,
the things that you were talking about, and Mr. Galloway are talking about in terms of your health, that help combat the rapid decline in your health because of HIV are things that are normal for anyone. Anyone needs to know. So if you're keeping yourself healthy,
right,
it's a wonderful thing. And I wanted to just say a couple of things, and then I'm gonna see if Mrs. Childs is with us. I would like to bring her on so she can talk to us a little bit about HIV in Mississippi. But we talked about the fact that people are lonely and they need help and they need support. And this is one of the ways I think that our churches can step in
right.
and be a positive support, because I heard you say you were a preacher's child. So one
Yes.
of the questions that I had to ask you, but you kind of answered it when you said you were a preacher's child. Being a Christian does not save you from HIV.
No,
Going
it
to church does
doesn't.
not
And,
save
and
you
and
from
God is working through
HIV.
the medication
But
every day. God is working through that medication every day.
thank you. Thank
Luke,
you.
I always say Luke was a doctor. So we say, well, I don't need the medication because Jesus will heal me. He's healing you through the medication.
So what I'm saying, so just because you don't believe, don't think that because you're a Christian that protects you against anything and everything in this world.
Right.
But being a Christian does help you because
Exactly.
because that's your spiritual mind. That
Exactly.
helps you emotionally and mentally. So
Exactly.
and that is what helps you stay physically well and healthy too. And so it's
Exactly.
mind, body, and spirit working together
Exactly.
that helps
Exactly.
you. And ladies, I just have to say this as I don't know about other ethnic group ladies, but I know black ladies. We're real good at denial. And we know our man or our partner is messing up, and we will deny it to the heels and continue to put ourselves at risk instead of having that conversation. So
Yeah.
it's important that we have the acknowledge and have the conversation. And even if we don't think that they're messing up, you're going into a new relationship. Have the conversation.
Exactly.
You've been you both know that you didn't just fall out of the sky today. So you know that you had life before you. So
Exactly.
talk to your partners. And if you don't know how to have that conversation, you have the resources right here with Dr. Link and with Mr. Galloway. I'm sure that they would welcome a call or a text or
Yeah.
an email from you saying, how do I start that conversation so that I can get my partner and myself tested? And even if your partner don't go, get yourself tested, because even if
Exactly.
you're in a relationship, and I'm certainly not going to tell you to leave your relationship with your if your partner or your husband or whoever is having relationships outside your marriage, because if you leave, you ain't coming to live with me. But what we
Right.
can do is teach you how to be safer in that environment. And
Right.
so reach out to us so that we can help you. So and I'll come back for final comments as soon as I see if Mrs. Childs is on. And again, she is a healthy aging director for Mississippi Department of State of Health. Mrs. Childs, were you able to join us today? If so, Duke, would you let her in, please?
I don't see her name on here.
Okay. All right then. We're sorry that she wasn't able to join us. I'm sure that it was a very good reason as to why she couldn't be here. So we get her on at another day and time. We do have World AIDS Day coming up. We have Black AIDS coming, when we will be doing webinars about all of these things, because it's important. Uh, Very important. As you say, Black women have the highest rate of HIV infection, and so we want to make sure that you stay educated, that you learn what the resources are to help you to stay healthy and to live longer. And so I'm going to ask you, Dr. Link, is there anything burning that you want to share with us before we open up for questions?
No, I've ready to hear any questions that come up.
What about you, Mr. Galloway? Is there anything burning that you would like to share?
Yes, I would. First and foremost, get tested. Know your status. Don't be ashamed, especially here in Memphis, Tennessee. The new HIV rates are going up out through the sky. So we need for people to know their status. We need for you not to be ashamed to know your status. There's help out there. It's best that you know than not know. If you know, you can live. I'm a living witness. Dr. Lincoln, living witness. Magic Johnson, living witness
Yeah.
that, hey, if you know your status, you can live. But if you don't know, and they said HIV is no longer a death sentence, true in a sense. But if you do not know your HIV status, that would be just the opposite.
You
Okay,
still with that sentence.
so please get tested and support the people that you know, family members that know.
I support that 100%. So now we're going to open up. If you're on social media, please, other than Zoom, please put your questions in the chat, and Mr. Robinson will read them for us. Or if you are on Zoom, you can open up your mic and ask a question. Or if you don't feel comfortable asking the question, you can put it in the comments section, and we'll read that, because we don't want you to go away with any questions unanswered today. And I wanted to say about Mr. Galloway said the numbers are going up in Memphis. Know that some of those numbers are Mississippi, okay? Because people don't test in their own home
Right.
states, home city, because they are afraid of the information getting out. And as Dr. Link talked about, stigma is still very real. And so we want to make sure that you realize that HIV is here, y'all. In the South, we have the highest rates. That means Mississippi too. So get tested. I think we have Miss Carol Jackson has her hand raised. So can you open up your mic, Miss Jackson, and ask your question, please.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this up about HIV, because we haven't been talking about it lately in the last couple of decades like it was before. I don't think our young people know it's on the rise or it's still here. And so now, because we're at another church, I can bring these young people together and talk about this. I thank you for bringing this up, because I would have never thought about it. I would have
Yeah.
never thought that it's still here. You know it's still here, but not like what you guys explained to us. So thank you. Now I can go to this younger generation at
Yeah.
the church I am at now and just talk about it and explain to them. I mean, seriously, thank you so much. Because everything
Yeah.
you guys bring, I can take back to the church now. and
Well,
not be
thank you.
afraid to take it back, because at first it's taboo. And no, we need to talk to you young people about this, because they're still out there having unprotected sex, as well as our older people too, which
Yeah.
you didn't think without
Yeah,
wisdom.
I'm glad. I'm so
somewhere.
glad you said older people too, because we as Dr. Link said, we don't want to think that grandmama and grandpapa or mom and daddy are having sex,
Right, but
and
they
they
are.
are. We are sexual beings,
Yeah,
so we're
Yeah.
gonna have
yeah,
sex,
yeah,
and so we need to realize that, we need to acknowledge that, and we need
right.
to
Hmm.
support them, but support them with information and
Right,
resources that will
right,
help to keep them safer, so that
right.
they'll last long. Because there's no such thing as safe sex; it's safer sex.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and then this too also goes with just ministering to the whole man. It's
Yeah.
not just a
Exactly.
spiritual thing like we used to do. No, we got to go to the whole man.
Right.
Everything
Right.
affects
Exactly.
the man. Everything affects our bodies, our mind, everything. So you guys bring out so many things that I can just thank you. That's all I got to say is thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good. It's
Thank
good.
you.
Okay. You're welcome. Is there anyone else that have a question or comment that they would like to make? Brenda Jefferson. Oh, excuse me. Bishop Bernadette Jefferson is on from Flint, Michigan. Bishop, come on in.
Good afternoon. Well,
Good
good morning.
afternoon.
And I thank you so much for this information, even though I've been working with Bettina for years. With the AIDS awareness, is still more to learn, and I'm grateful for that. And my question is that with the generation now, that they're having sex even earlier than they was 20 years ago. And because there is an uprising, what can we do in order to make the awareness? Because it's like a sleeping dog now. It's not being talked about. That you very seldom hear anything about AIDS, and so it's time to put a refresher out there, to put an alert out there, to let them know that it's still there, that it's not gone.
Dr. Lee?
So
Yeah, I would say absolutely so. And I would say you have to be honest. You have to be open. I just did a teaching in Sumner County, building the capacity of faith leaders. And it was just open and honest, not mincing words and showing some data, showing, you could go to AIDSVU.org. They have a lot of resources that you can use. And I'll give that to Miss Bettina too. That she'll probably has it, but I'll give that to her. But they have a lot of infographics that you could use when talking in churches, even um, about HIV and AIDS, because the kids, the young people, the older people, everyone needs to have this information.
right,
And it's
right,
biblical. It's biblical.
yes, it is.
The Bible says people perish because of lack of knowledge. And if you read a couple chapters, a couple verses up, it's because they haven't did what they're supposed to do. They're not communicating with the people. They're not, talking to the people in plain language. And a lot of times I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Well, sometimes feelings need to be hurt.
That's right.
Feelings need to be hurt.
That's
And you have to say what I believe that God is saying, which is just, because it's affecting our people
right,
more than
right.
any other. And so they need to have the information. They're not being taught at home. They say, well, we'll teach it at home. They're not teaching it at home.
Oh no,
And I'm
no,
telling you, every week, I'm going to a new meeting for people coming in, young people, older people coming in that have not been tested, and now they're living with HIV. The stigma is still out there. They don't want to tell their families. And sometimes they go away and come back after 2 or 3 years because they can't even deal with it. And so I really think I always say the church is the way to go. But we have to tell the truth. We have to say what I say, thus says the Lord. We have to get it out there. Yeah.
that's so true. My church was one of the first
Yeah.
that presented it to the community, and I know I was the first pastor to went and got some condoms for my members.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, you were. Yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
you were.
Yes,
But and we always say, we quote the people perish for the lack of knowledge. It also says get an understanding. And you
Right.
know, you get knowledge, but with all I get and get an understanding. And
Yes.
so
Right.
that understanding is the teaching. You know, people need to know that HIV is real. They need to know how it's transmitted. They need to know what they can do to protect themselves. And if they are infected, they need to know where they can go to get help. And because it's not just that person that's living with it, they may have the physical ramifications of it, but the family have the emotional and mental ramifications of it, and then ultimately the community. And so we all need to be working together to stop the spread of this virus. And it's no joke. It's not a laughing matter, and it's not a shameful matter. It's a matter of being able to protect yourself so that you can live a quality life. Now, so now we are at a time when unfortunately, I have to end the conversation. Did you want to say anything, Dr. Link, before I end the conversation?
No, just everyone, I have to run too, but just everyone get tested. It's real simple, it's real fast. Get tested. It's free. Most of the time you can find a place where it's free. Get tested so you know what your status is. That's it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Mr. Galloway, one last thing you'd like to say?
Real quick, if this message is not for you, all fine and well, but you got nieces, nephews, cousins, neighbors, friends. Share that information with me and let's everybody stay alive together.
All right.
I love that.
Share. I mean, if you don't feel like you're confident in saying the word, put this video on and have them sit down and watch it.
That's
It's
it.
good for everybody.
That's
So
it.
again, this has been awesome. We've learned a lot. We've shared a lot, and I am so grateful that you came. We want to say again that and give you some updates or some friendly reminders of what's coming. So Ask Mary and Pat Zoom webinar is 6 p.m. Monday, September the 29th. Let's Talk Real Estate with Area Mays is 11 a.m. on Thursday, September the 25th. And finally, our next third Wednesday Parent Resource Chat is on Wednesday, October the 5th. And we will be talking about domestic violence and ADHD awareness in adults and children. So we invite you to please come back and join us. Again, you may hear more, learn more about us on our new website at www.healthytogetherms.org. And once again, we would like to acknowledge our Executive Director, Dr. Michael O. Minor, and our Program Director, Lottie Minor. This has been a production of the Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation. And so so we're asking that you please join us again next month, same time.